Hello, East Cleveland. This is Mayor Brandon L. King. Many have reached out to express your concerns and frustrations regarding the partnership with the Cleveland Metroparks. In this video, I would like to share with you the facts and, as always, make available any documents surrounding the Cleveland Metroparks exit from the East Cleveland Forest Hill Park Restoration and Management Partnership. In early 2017, resident and head of the Forest Hill Park Association, Mr. Gordon Hay, facilitated a meeting with Brian Zimmerman and myself to discuss what interests, if any, the Cleveland Metroparks had in our East Cleveland Forest Hill Park. Mr. Zimmerman explained that the Metroparks were currently involved in other negotiations to manage various other parks and properties. He explained that these negotiations were very complex and time-consuming and would require the development of complex business plans and ultimately would require extensive fundraising. Fundraising, Mr. Zimmerman exclaimed, is something that the Cleveland Metroparks is very good at. In 2018, the Cleveland Metroparks applied for a grant from the McGregor Foundation, a grant to study the Forest Hill Park and determine the true condition of the park, and to come up with an estimated cost to restore the park for the good of the city and the greater community. The head of the McGregor Foundation at the time, Mr. Rob Hilton, called me and asked if awarding the Metroparks their annual grant would be a good idea. Now, obviously, we supported the Cleveland Metroparks, as we had met with them a year earlier to discuss their interests in our Forest Hill Park. The Metroparks were awarded the grant and subsequently produced a document called the Forest Hill Park Assessment. Now, I want you to please remember this document, the Forest Hill Park Assessment. This document gives an extensive assessment of Forest Hill Park and the costs associated with restoring it. This document is basically a roadmap or a plan for restoring Forest Hill Park. On Tuesday, January 25th of 2022, the executive branch, along with the legislative branch of our city government, met with the executives and board members of the Cleveland Metroparks. This meeting was held at the East Cleveland Public Library, and among the many other attendees were representatives from Cuyahoga County, including our county councilor, Cheryl Stevens. This meeting set the stage of official talks regarding the Cleveland Metroparks restoring and then managing our Forest Hill Park. At this meeting, I and the council president, Nathaniel Martin, along with our county councilor and the Cleveland Metroparks, verbally pledged to work together to bring this dream to fruition and to help secure funding to support it. When the Biden administration awarded governments the American Rescue Plan Act funds, the ARPA funds, this allowed the city of East Cleveland and the county to direct funds to the tune of $4 million to this project. $2 million from the city of East Cleveland and $2 million from Cuyahoga County. In July of 2022, the City Council of East Cleveland, by a unanimous decision, passed Resolution 5522. This resolution states in its preamble, pursuant to the Forest Hill Park Assessment Plan. Remember, the McGregor Foundation awarded the Cleveland Metroparks a $50,000 grant to fully study the Forest Hill Park. This document, the Forest Hill Park Assessment, created in 2019, is the result of the McGregor Foundation grant And the preamble of the legislation passed by City Council in July of 2022 reads, pursuant to the Forest Hill Park Assessment Plan. This is important because the trio of Juanita Gowdy, Eric Brewer, and Pat Bahoviak continue to put forth the false narrative that the city's payment of $2 million is contingent on having executed a lease agreement with the Cleveland Metroparks. Yet nowhere in Resolution 55-22, which was unanimously passed into law in 2022, nowhere is it written that payment is pursuant to an executed lease agreement. This legislation simply does not contain any of those words. I wanted to establish this fact. The fact that the city of East Cleveland has every legal right to write a check for $2 million to the Cleveland Metroparks based on the legislation passed by our city council. Mr. Brian Zimmerman, being the professional and forward-thinking individual he is, requested that the city not send the check to the Metroparks until a fully executed lease agreement approved by our city council is in place. I honored his request. He may have made this request with the desire to avoid the possible buffoonery in which our city council now engages. And as you have undoubtedly seen on the news or have read in the paper, avoiding this was simply unsuccessful. And on August 14th, Eric Brewer, in my opinion, authored a letter which was then signed by the alleged council president, Juanita Gowdy, and endorsed by the alleged council vice president, Pat Bahoviak. This letter was written to Brian Zimmerman and accused Mr. Zimmerman and the Metroparks of essentially stealing $2 million from the city of East Cleveland. Juanita Gowdy's letter was carbon copied to the state auditor, the FBI, the county prosecutor, and the Financial Planning and Supervision Commission chairperson, among others. You remember the Financial Planning and Supervision Commission. We'll come back to that later. On August 16th, Mr. Zimmerman responded with a letter of his own, denying the accusations Gowdy, Brewer, and Pat waged against him and the Cleveland Metroparks. His letter also included the Cleveland Metroparks ending its pursuit of restoring and managing our Forest Hill Park. That same day, seemingly within hours and in response to Mr. Zimmerman's letter, Gowdy, Pat, and Brewer wrote a series of emails and letters, all of which merely contained more accusations, more lies, and more propaganda, with the intent on blaming me, my administration, and even Brian Zimmerman as the cause for the creation of Gowdy's original letter. Their letters and emails made wild accusations of theft of monies and of mass corruption within our government. Their letters and emails resulted in Mr. Zimmerman sending yet another letter to Juanita Gowdy. His letter stated how confusing all of her letters had become, and how those letters and the attachments provided no evidence to substantiate any of the claims put forth in her original letter. In fact, Mr. Zimmerman's letter clearly states how Gowdy, Pat, and Brewer's letters and emails in response to his first letter were all attempts to somehow rewrite Gowdy's first letter. Yet Mr. Zimmerman did not buy into it, and he closed his his second letter with an invitation to have a third party audit the Cleveland Metroparks books. Keep in mind that the city of East Cleveland has been in and out of fiscal emergency for over 25 years, and that a requirement of being in fiscal emergency is that the state auditors review the city's financial books on a monthly basis. Now, it's the state auditor who declared and placed East Cleveland into fiscal emergency, and through the Office of Budget and Management established the Financial Planning and Supervision Commission. It is also the state auditor who appoints the commission chair, who reports directly to the state auditor. Now, I make mention of this so that you can better understand just how absolutely ludicrous Juanita Gowdy's accusations are, and how irresponsible it was CCing the chair of the Financial Planning and Supervision Commission and CCing the state auditor, both of whom would know exactly if $2 million was taken out of the city's bank account. How irresponsible of Juanita Gowdy and Pat to allow Brewer to destroy a relationship that we have been working on for over 6 years. The Cleveland Metroparks is one of the most recognized park management systems in the nation. In fact, the American Academy for Park and Recreation Administration, in partnership with the National Recreation and Park Association, awarded the 2021 National Gold Medal, Best in Nation Award for Excellence in Parks and Recreation Management to the Cleveland Metroparks. This award is the highest national honor in the parks and recreation field, and is the fifth, let me say it again, is the fifth gold medal award that the Cleveland Metroparks has been awarded in this program's history. And this is the second gold medal awarded to the Cleveland Metroparks under the leadership of Mr. Brian Zimmerman. The Cleveland Metroparks can literally pick and choose which communities and which parks it would like to partner with and it would like to manage. Brewer has been a cancer ever since he was invited into council's office, invited by the alleged council president Juanita Gowdy and invited by the alleged council vice president Pat Bahoviak. Now, you remember this person, Eric Brewer. This is the same person who, in the same fashion, used his tabloid and also wrote numerous letters to various government agencies spreading propaganda, making false accusations and outright lies, accusing the former mayor, Gary Norton, of stealing $20 million from the city of East Cleveland and the Cleveland Clinic. This year alone, due to our city council, the city has lost grant funding to resurface Shaw Avenue. Now we have lost a partnership with the Cleveland Metroparks. And next, Brewer, Gowdy, and Pat will attempt to cause the city to lose grant funding to resurface Hayden Avenue. Brewer, Gowdy, and Pat will also attempt to destroy our partnership with the County Land Bank, essentially destroying the opportunity to build the new neighborhood, the Circle East District. This new neighborhood is something that we have collectively been working on since the Norton administration, when the first MOU was signed with the County Land Bank back in 2010. How much must the residents of the city of East Cleveland suffer? How much must this community lose until Gowdy, Pat, and Stevenson, as elected officials, remove this individual from council's office? Remove this individual who is hell-bent on destroying this city by any means necessary. God bless. God bless East Cleveland.